I'm Philip Ward, Editor-in-Chief of Aunt Minnie Europe. An important landmark this week is 25 years of the European Radiology Journal. Professor Max Reiser is the Editor-in-Chief. Max, congratulations on your great achievement. I was going to ask you about plagiarism in journals and about how you tackle this in European radiology. Would you say it's more of an important issue than it was, and a difficult issue 25 years ago?
It is, of course, a major issue nowadays, even if it changed during a few past years. So I think the authors are more aware that there are possibilities to identify plagiarism, and they cope with that. They avoid plagiarism and, what is even more important, duplication of parts of manuscripts.
Good. How many cases have you had in the past year on European radiology of plagiarism?
I think it was 5 to 6 cases, and those were minor cases. So it was not frank plagiarism, but it was duplication of parts of previous manuscripts which had been published or which were submitted to other journals.
Okay. Now, what methods do you use as a journal editor to find the plagiarism, to detect it?
There is in our manuscript submission system, editorial manager, there is a module which says, be aware this can be duplication. And then if we have a suspect of plagiarism or duplication, we would use a software which is called Authenticate. And this has a relatively high number of false positives, but then we can identify parts of the manuscripts which are the same as in other publications. And then, of course, we would go in the two publications, compare with each other, and if there is still a concern, we would approach the authors.
Okay.
If the answer is satisfactory, this would be okay. If not, we would go on, and in the worst case, we would exclude such an author from further publications.
Okay. Do you maintain a blacklist of people who have plagiarized, who you have identified?
We have a blacklist, but there are only very, very few names.
Okay, good. And do you share that blacklist with other journal editors?
No, we don't. I mean, in very severe cases of plagiarism or other types of ethical misconduct, we would inform the dean of the respective university or the head of the ethical committee, but it might be also a problem, a legal problem, to share such information with other editors.
Okay. Are there any guidelines at all for authors, for editors, that they could use on detecting plagiarism and how to handle it?
Yes, they are very useful. There is a society or association, COPE.
COPE?
COPE. The Committee on Publication Ethics, and they published guidelines which are very helpful, and if there is a case, I always look in these guidelines and act accordingly.
Okay, excellent. Now, 25 years is an amazing period of success and growth. What would you say have been your main highlights over that period as a journal in terms of European radiology?
I mean, we have more than 60,000 people who have access to European radiology, and this, of course, is great per se. It was founded by Professor Lissner, who was also my predecessor in the Department of Radiology in Munich University. Then Albert Barth did a wonderful job, and Adrian Dixon as well, and he was very kind with me to introduce me in this new job. Now, we have increased the impact factor, which is now above 4, which is very good, which is important for the authors. I mean, publish or perish is true, unfortunately, or whatsoever. It is true, and that's why we get every year more and more manuscripts submitted. And the good and the bad thing about it is that we have to have a more and more severe selection of manuscripts which can be published.
And what would you say are the other main challenges you face in terms of engaging your readership and in terms of ensuring that people put the wisdom into practice?
Yes, I mean the mission of a medical journal is that we have to give the ideas of science to those who are practicing medicine, in our case radiology. That's why it is important to have really very good papers, practical papers, which help the radiologist who is working in a private practice, in a hospital, to do a good job with his patients. And at the end, it's the patient who counts.
Excellent. Well, I think we're all very glad that you've thrived and that you haven't perished at all. So best of luck for the next 25 years. Max, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Philip.